Hello. Okay, so I decided to quickly record this class to cover um how to determine calories when you eat out. So if you go to a restaurant and you order something, especially when it's mixed, it's a food that has different, it's a meal that has different foods inside, right? So before we actually talk about how to determine the calories, I want to first share a few tips to eating out. Now, for many restaurants, the carb portions many times is more than you probably should be eating. So maybe the fried rice or jollof rice or whatever it is. So one tip I always use is to find out if they sell half portions. Some restaurants do, some don't. So, for example, if I wanted to buy fried rice, I could ask them, "Do you sell half portion?" And if they do, I definitely order half portion. Um, and it just depends. It might be somewhere you haven't been before. Different restaurants sell their portion sizes obviously will vary. So when they sell the half portion, I can look at it and decide, oh, is it too much? Is it too, is it just enough or is it too small? If their half portion is too small, then I can say, oh, okay, you can sell me a full portion. But like I said, from experience, most places probably sell too much. So half portion will likely be fine. And if it's not, you can go ahead and buy the full portion. Now, besides that, there's also what's the word now? um okay, yes. There's also the fact that some places might actually not sell half portion, but you can tell them to still serve you half portion. Now, it might look like a waste of money. So I don't know. So maybe their full portion of fried rice is 400 naira. But that 400 naira rice is a lot. You can decide for them to serve you the half portion and still pay the 400 naira. It's better that way, okay? Or you can tell them to serve you the half portion and then pack the remaining half in a takeaway pack. Because it's very difficult for you to tell them to serve you the full thing and then you go and sit down to eat, and then somehow you're trying to convince yourself that it is that you will not finish the food. It's very difficult to have food on your plate that you will not finish. Okay, so it's very important that if something makes it onto your plate, it's because you plan on eating it. If you're not going to eat it, then have it in a takeaway pack before you even start eating at all. Okay, of course, then there's going to be your protein. Now, it's obviously very, very, very important that you choose something that is not fried. So whether it's going to be steamed, whether it's going to be grilled, you want to look for those options. So whether it's fish, chicken, beef, as much as possible, scan their available items and see if you can find something that is not fried. And of course, your vegetables super important. Remember, you're already not going to be eating lots of carbs, so you really need the vegetables to fill up that plate, and also for the fiber and nutrients. And your goal here is to look for the vegetable with the least amount of oil or dressing. So if it's a soup, you're looking for which one does looks the least oily, right? And if it's a salad, you want to try and see if they have a salad that does not already have dressing. Because most restaurants, when they're mixing the dressing beforehand, they tend to put a lot. So it's very helpful when they have a dry salad and then they put the salad cream on the side, and then that way you can then decide how much you want to put into it yourself. Okay, so if that makes sense. Okay, so how about meals that are already mixed? So something like your fried rice or yam pottage, and things like that. How do you, or even soups, like you didn't cook. So step one is going to be identifying the different components that make the meal. So this is still very similar to what we covered when we talked about those one pot meals. That's meals that involve different ingredients. So if it's going to be fried rice, for example, and you have the rice, you have the oil, you have all the different things that are going into it. So mentally determine that. Secondly, you also then want to find out, okay, all these different things inside, how much of it am I eating? Then you can then calculate the calories in all those different foods and add them up. So usually I'll just quickly flip out my calculator and start punching in the numbers. So I look at the rice, this looks about this amount, which will be about this calories. and this looks about this amount, which will be about these calories. Okay. Many times when it comes to eating out, I have noticed that the hardest part is usually estimating the oil, because it's a bit difficult to do that because it is oil. It's not exactly a solid thing, and it's mixed up in the food. And it's usually a bit difficult to estimate. But what has helped me over the years is when you do your own cooking, it kind of becomes easier for you to estimate how much oil somebody else has used in a way. For example, if I'm served a meal and the oil is staining the plate, I know it's a lot. Obviously, I can't pinpoint, or estimate to, 100% accuracy, but I begin to have a fair idea of how much. So there are different levels. There's when the stew is staining the pot, then there's when you can literally see the oil seeping out of the stew, right? Because I mean, for me, when I cook at home, because of the kind of amount of oil I use, you won't even see any oil anywhere. That's how little I use. Like you can't see the oil, even though I know I put oil in it. But because it's not a lot, the food has absorbed it such that you can't find it. Normally, food will absorb some of the oil, but if you use plenty oil after the food has absorbed some, the ones that it cannot absorb is now the ones that you'll be seeing leaking everywhere, right? So let's take the example of like this meal from the place. So it's their rice, side of salad, and their chicken. So this is an estimate that I'm doing. So with this plate here, we can say, okay, this looks about 1 cup of rice, especially since there's still some vegetables in there here and there. So we can safely kind of assume and estimate that it's about 1 cup. Then of course we need to account for the oil inside of the fried rice. This is where it gets tricky. I've bought food from the place before. So I'm estimating that this 1 cup will have about 4 teaspoons of oil. So that's about 180 calories. Let's assume that I decided to buy their chicken in stew that is fried. So it's one medium drumstick. From your calories list, that's about 145. The rice 1 cup cooked 205. Vegetables 1 cup. Based off this plate, this tiny one here will be about what? Sorry, this tiny plate here will be about half cup. Then I'm estimating, the one that is inside here, maybe probably not to half cup, but I'm estimating it to be about a cup, which is 25 calories. Um, Now obviously this salad looks dry, so I'm assuming there's going to be a dressing by the side. I'm gonna put really little because the salad is so tiny. I'm trying to work off based on what exactly is on this plate. Well, be sorry, in this picture. Yeah, on the plate in the picture. Why does this keep happening? So, because of how tiny the salad is, I'll just put in maybe half tablespoon of salad dressing, which is about 22.5, but I don't want to use decimals, so I just said 25 calories. So altogether, this plate in this picture of this meal from the place, I'll be estimating that to about 580 calories. Now remember, it is not going to be perfect because, for example, you don't have a cup to really measure exactly how much rice it is. You were not there when they were cooking the rice, so you don't really know how much oil went into cooking the rice. So you're gonna have to do fair estimates. But like I said, the more you cook at home, especially if you're already used to cooking with lots of oil, you actually be in a much better position to estimate this because it just helps you. You kind of know how oily the rice looks based on how you cook in your house, and it might be able to help you determine that. Another thing that I do, especially for foods that are like very oily. So let's use soup. If I see soup and then I can see oil seeping out of the soup, and then I try to not drain the oil, but I shift my plate such that the oil collects in one corner, and I'm able to look at the oil, and I'm like, okay, the oil that is seeping out of this plate, this is about a tablespoon of oil, and that's just the one that is just leaking out. We're not going to talk about the ones that are obviously wrapped with all the leaves and all the things in this soup. What I easily then do is, if I can visually see 1 tablespoon of oil already, like just spreading all over my plate, I instantly multiply that by 3. So if I can see a tablespoon of oil seeping out of my soup, I'm going to assume that there is another 2 tablespoons inside of the soup already that is mixed in with everything. So I'll estimate that plate to have 3 tablespoons. That is the method that I use. Okay. So yeah. So pretty much that's another way you can go about it. But generally, if you're going to even see any food that you're seeing and you can literally see the oil seeping out of it everywhere, that's probably not something you should be eating because the oil is going to be uncontrollable. Using the example I just used, imagine 3 tablespoons of oil. That's already 360 calories. That is ridiculous. I mean, how many calories is your entire meal going to be if just the oil is 360? Not worth it. Okay. So I hope this has helped somehow. I decided to record this because I got a few requests for it. So yeah, if you guys still have other questions, please feel free to send me an email. And I'll be more than happy to elaborate and explain better. I hope you guys are enjoying the journey so far and you're beginning to make progress. Yeah, so that's it for me for now. Have an amazing day. Bye.